What are the top 3 things you're most looking forward to about older age?
First of all, I don't want to get old.
I don't feel old, although I'm over 70 now, so I am.
My pension coming in.
Holidays.
Retirement to the Caribbean.
Spending more time with my husband and in the garden, and particularly my grandchildren.
I would hope to never really feel like I'm older age.
No, you won't feel that. No, you never will.
So what worries you about getting older then?
When I think about like older people, and especially like my grandparents, they're not like going out, they're not seeing their friends. That's a fear that you don't get to do what you love.
What if my mind goes? What if I start like forgetting stuff? What if I forget people I love?
You're a good example of getting older and still having a very active, wonderful life.
But I know I will get older, we all get older, and I will need more care.
The thing that worries me more as I get older is the finances.
What I don't want to be is a burden on my family, and I've said this to you and your sisters as well. But
What one thing would you wish for your loved ones in their older years?
To be able to live as independently as they can for as long as they can.
It's just to be held in love, to have people who love them around them.
to be looked after and cared for, and that's the one thing that I would wish for anybody.
Is home ownership important to you?
We haven't bought a house because we can't afford to buy a house.
I do own a house. I own 3 actually.
Cool.
For me, property is just a good investment because it's an asset there that's going to always grow.
I think I'm just realistic about it. We might not be able to buy a house.
Yeah.
If you haven't thought about your care options when you get older, why not? And if you have, what are they?
Absolutely, I haven't thought about that.
I've never thought too far ahead, always thinking about more of the now.
You don't really want to think about it.
No, you don't.
When do you know when to make that decision? No one really knows.
Have you even got a pension? Because
I do,
I think I've got one, but I don't know what it is.
I feel like we're not big future proofers.
Do you think it's the government's responsibility to help you afford your care?
Yeah, easily.
I think it is.
Do you?
Yeah.
I do. I think it should be treated exactly the same as the NHS, and there is this huge cut-off between the two.
It isn't just like you don't work hard enough, so therefore you can't afford care. There's loads of reasons for it.
No one should be left unable to get help if they need it.
Because otherwise then that's the government not caring for its population.
Realistically, unfortunately, it just can't be free.
At the very least, the government should be doing more to make sure people understand what the costs are.
There needs to be an education piece with younger people about pensions and planning because I don't think that happens.
Yeah.
Do you think care services or care options in the UK are inclusive?
I think so.
They're not inclusive at all, and it's a world that you know nothing about until you start visiting care homes and you suddenly see a different part of the community that you've never seen before.
If it's a struggle for people to get care, and it's a struggle to get those local governments to take action when people really do need the care, then it's not really fully inclusive.
What do you think of those working in care settings?
I think they're rock stars.
They're a special breed of people.
They are part of our family, aren't they?
They are. They do an absolutely wonderful job.
From personal experience, I've seen people that are so patient.
I don't think it gets highlighted enough.
Well, you only really hear the bad stories.
It's often portrayed as an unskilled job that's low paid. I mean, for goodness sake, you're caring for somebody who is really vulnerable and who needs potentially everything done with them and for them. It's such a highly skilled job.
And it hurts me so much to think that they're paid an absolute pittance for what they do. And they're worth so much more.
Did you know that adult social care is in crisis?
I didn't until I read that.
What's the crisis?
A lot of the time it doesn't come across in the media.
I knew we was in crisis in social care, but I didn't know how much.
There just isn't enough funding.
And then on top of that, they're understaffed.
So they're working such enormous shifts and the strain on them is huge. But I'm not sure people really understand how much of a crisis there is until they come up against it personally.
Lucky dip.
Lucky dip.
Lucky dip.
Let's see what we get.
The welfare state, which brought in the beloved National Health Service, promised to look after people from the cradle to the grave. Do you believe it does that?
In theory, yes.
Yeah.
I think so.
No.
No way.
If you need care, you have to find it yourself, you have to pay for it yourself.
And I don't think it's necessarily just in older age that we sometimes let people down. I think there's younger people who are really in need of support that they're not getting either.
Prior to the pandemic in February 2020, there were already 4.43 million people on a waiting list for care.
Wow.
By the end of December 2021, This backlog has increased to 6 million and is expected to continue to grow. Do you find this concerning?
Yes.
Yes.
That is a lot.
That is ridiculous.
6 million people, I mean, that's a huge number.
So that's a bit under 1 in 11 people. That's 1 out of every family.
What's happening to these people who are in a waiting list?
Hundreds of thousands of families doing their very best for their loved one who needs a lot of care with absolutely no space for anything else. They don't have a voice and therefore it can get kind of shoved under the carpet. And the people that live alone that are getting by without care when they need care, that's miserable.
In 2020 to 2021, there was an estimate of 1.67 million jobs available in adult social care.
Gosh.
On average, 6.8% of roles were vacant in 2020 to 2021. This is equivalent to 105,000 vacancies being advertised on an average day.
I know carers in Jan's care home who went to work in the retail sector because they were paid more than being carers.
It doesn't feel like an attractive workplace or career path. Like, it feels quite demanding.
It's just a really undervalued profession.
Social care is rarely free. More often than not, you'll have to contribute to the cost of care. The amount you pay depends on the level of need and the amount of assets you have. How does that make you feel?
I think that actually that's okay. Those who have most need to be prepared to contribute most.
I think you should be expected to pay for some of your care. It's maybe an expectation to sell what you've got to look after yourself.
What about people who don't have
Assets.
Someone might go through life, end up having no one and being unable to build those assets. So why should they receive less care than someone else that has all those assets?
This is like the unlucky dip.
Did you know that the average person will need a minimum of £124,000 to fund around 4 years of basic level care in their older years?
How do you feel about that?
It just sounds quite scary, to be honest.
Where are we going to get that from?
Do you think that's too much?
I think it's too much.
We know that.
We know that very well. And it's certainly a minimum of 124k.
That's a reality check, isn't it? Because you sort of go, and what's my house worth?
And you can sell that, but for that to only fund 4 years, what are you doing for the rest of the time if you have that time left?
We wouldn't be able to afford it. Like, we would have to figure out an alternative way to have care.
This has been really helpful because, you know, we didn't know anything.
We thought about this stuff quite a lot, but actually there's more to think about, isn't there?
You kind of think, oh, well, once you retire, you don't have to think about money anymore. But actually, like, you do.
You clearly do. Looking especially the amounts that you have to have for that basic care, it's like scary. And how do we do that?
The one that stuck out to me the most today is about the waiting list.
Yeah, knowing what we know now, I would want my loved ones in their older years to have like consistent care.
I do want them to have all the care and all the happiness and health and everything that they can get, but then if it doesn't happen by the time they're older, then...
It's scary.
Yeah.
Those facts about the enormous cost of it and the lack of people working in it, what's it going to be like?
There needs to be enough people, and people that are enjoying their job and not completely burnt out and exhausted.
Who is going to care for me in my old age?
I will. I will.